We're going to be talking about something that's very important in pursuit of your goals and dreams. Very important when it comes to developing yourself, your talents, your abilities, your skills. Because one of the things I'm going to be talking about, I think, is one of the things that people don't spend enough time on. They talk about time management. You can't manage time. Everybody is 24 hours. What's most important is managing yourself, what you do with your time. People ask me all the time, how do you know so many quotes? I say, I take the time to memorize them. Hello, you think? I put the work in. I use my time differently than other speakers, other trainers, other life coaches. So I want you to think about what it is that you're doing with your time today. And you know what? If you look at it, if you really look at it, all of us are basically the same. The only difference is how you use your time. I know people who have a lot of talent in specific areas, and the difference between them and other people is the time that they put in. Listen to me. As you look at yourself, look at where you are right now in your life, the people that are going to come out on top, the people that are going to make an impact, the people that are going to achieve their goals are the people who are mindful on how they use their time. And one of the things that you have to do is practice. You have to practice being mindful and asking yourself, is this the most productive use of my time? While my friends were having a good time, while my friends were partying, and I love to party, but I spent more time working on developing myself and my skills. I spent more time with my coach, Mike Williams, who wrote the book, The Road to Your Best Stuff, than I did with my friends. Why? I like my friends, but they weren't going to pay my bills. But the things that I was going to learn from Mike as a coach, as a trainer, I could generate a lot of money. And it allowed me to be able to walk away from my job. Write this down. If you use your time correctly, you'll be able to generate walk away money. If you use your time correctly, you'll be able to generate walk away money. The average person, time is no big deal to them. How many of you know people like that? Look at it. I mean, come on now, just be honest. Even if it's you, just blink your eyes, I see you. That you know people have a lot of talent, a lot of abilities, a lot of things going for them, but they're not using their time appropriately. You don't manage time, you have to manage yourself. And what I did, I just carved out time every day to memorize a minimum of 3 to 5 quotes every day. You give me a topic, I can roll with it. I don't need a second to think about it, because it's in here. I spend time working, reading, listening, and different ways in which I could use the quote to drive a point home, use the quote to create humor, use the quote to create special moments. And if you're serious, and everybody right now, everybody listening to me right now, you listening to me right now, you want to become a great presenter. In order to become a great presenter, in order to develop presentation power, you have to develop your power voice. How do you do that? You invest the effort and the time. If you want to put in the time so that you can learn a new skill virtually, so that you can get out of a job that's not you, and be able to go into your own business and do it from the comfort of your home. Now, I used to travel all over the world. I enjoyed that very much. But homie ain't traveling no more. No. My buddy Tyrone, he said, no, don't do that no more. Some of y'all don't know Tyrone. Tyrone was a squirrel outside my window on the west side of my house, all right? So here's something that Shakespeare said. He said, defer no time. Delays have dangerous consequences. Let me share something with you. I remember when I had the opportunity to audition for a play at Miami-Dade Community College. Mrs. Werner was the director there, and I didn't show up on time. Somebody else got the role. The reason I didn't show up, truthfully, not just because I was late, but because I didn't believe in myself. I said, well, something else will come up and I'll be able to get that role. Nothing else came up, and that was it. And so we've all had experiences. I want you to think about it. Something you put off and it cost you. It cost you. The guy was talking to me about becoming a part of my speaker training program. And I said, okay, I got a slot that's available now. So he said, I'll call you tomorrow. He didn't call. And so he saw me about 2 weeks later and said, hey, can I sign up now? Because one of my graduates told him how good it was for them. And I said, no. He said, why not? I said, you have to take advantage of the opportunity and the lifetime of the opportunity. I said, I don't have any openings for you now. But at some time, maybe 3 months, 4 months from now, that slot might be available again when somebody graduates. You have to take advantage of an opportunity and the lifetime of the opportunity. Is there something that you want to do? Some goal that you want to achieve? Something that's important to you? Some place that you want to go? Something that's important that as you look at it and think about it and said, I'd like to do this. One day I'm gonna. No. You don't know. You don't know. Don't operate with it. One day I'm gonna. I remember being with my best friend, Boo. He's since passed. And we were in Nassau, Bahamas. And I said, you know what, Boo? I said, this is the first time you and I, we've been traveling all over the world. This is the first time that we have time that we can spend here in Nassau, and you can find relatives that you haven't talked to in years. He said, oh, I got to get back to the States because I've got to cook. There's a special event for the church. I said, hey, guess what, Boo? They can get another cook. This is enough time in advance, a week in advance. Make a call, tell them that you will not be there because you are on vacation, and we've never taken the time to spend this time together just having fun. We traveled when I was speaking, and we went from city to city. My cousin Boo and I were in Nassau, and we traveled, and I would speak, and Boo always went with me. And so, but we wanted to have some time special together where I would go to a beautiful place and I didn't have to speak. And so I said, this is a place, let's do it here. Let's spend 3 weeks to a month here. Find relatives of yours that live here in Nassau and Bimini. And we can just chill out. And he said, I can't. I said, why not? He said, because I have to cook for an event that's taking place at the church. I said, you have enough time in advance, call them and let them know. He said, there is nobody else. I said, listen to me. If something happened to you, they will find somebody else. They will not cancel the event. He did not know, and I did not know. When he said, I can't do it, he did not know that he would not be able to do it for the church, to cook for the church. He died a few days after we got back, and they got another cook. They got another cook. Sometimes we think that we're irreplaceable. We're not. Somebody's waiting. When you have a goal, a dream, or something that you want to do, if you don't do it, somebody else will step in. Trust me, nobody's irreplaceable. Somebody will step in like they stepped in for my cousin Boo, and they cooked. And that's all I was thinking about as I sat there in the front row looking at him in the casket, because he always gave of himself, but we never took time to give to ourselves. And so that moment that we had was the last that we had the opportunity to spend 3 weeks together without my speaking. We never did. There's a quote. Miles Davis says, "Time is not the main thing. Time is the only thing." And he's absolutely right. So I want to ask you, how are you spending your time? How much are you putting in and focusing on the things that bring you joy, the things that make you smile, the things that make you feel good and laugh? How much time and energy are you focused on spending time with people that you love? You know, in order to live a life of no regrets, this lady, she worked for hospice, and she wrote this book, and it was about living a life of no regrets. And she said people who were dying, that what they regretted was not things dealing with how much money they made in their business, but how little time they spent with people that meant a lot to them, that if they had their lives to live over again, they would spend their time with certain people. At the end of my conversation with you, I'm encouraging you to make a list of some people that you need to deepen your relationship, or somebody that you need to write a letter to and say, "Hey, I love you, and I just want to thank you for what you've meant to me." I didn't say text them. No, that's impersonal. No, just people don't get letters anymore. I used to remember you would go to the drugstore, you get a little tablet, you get your pens and everything. People text, all right? No, when you write a letter, that's personal. You take the time to do that. I sent out some letters to some friends the other day, and they called me and say, "Hey, thank you very much. That meant a lot to me," because I put the time in to do it, to think about it. And I just get a card saying all the words that I wanted to say. I said it in my own voice. So I'm encouraging you, one, think about some people who you care about and who care about you, and it meant something to you at some point in time, and you would just like to do something kind by writing them a letter, by taking the time to let them know that you were thinking about them. How are you using your time? If there's something that you want to do in your life that you've been thinking about for a long time, carve out the time to do it. Stop putting it off. There's another quote, and I love quotes. You know I love them. Here's what I love. And this one says, "Sometimes you never know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory." Sometimes you don't know the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. I was talking to two friends of mine, and they knew Dr. Howard Thurman when they were younger. Now, some of you know Dr. Howard Thurman. Most people don't. He was a mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I was so blown away. I said, "You knew Dr. Howard Thurman?" "Yes." And I have these CDs that I was listening to that they gifted me. And I said, "What was he like?" And you know what they said? Well, he was a nice guy. He was thoughtful. He was quiet. You could tell he was a deep thinker. I said, "Well, did you ask him things and just try and pull out some ideas, concepts, or thoughts that he might have?" I said, "No. We didn't know he was all of that." Dr. Howard Thurman, come in, sir. The centering moment. Deep is the hunger. The two primary questions that one should ask oneself in life. Number one, where am I going? Number two, who's going with me? And if you ever ask those questions in the wrong order, you'll be in serious trouble. Oh, he was a bad brother. They said, we didn't know he was all that. Oh my goodness. I've had some moments with people that I did not know they were all that. And I blew it. That had I known who they were, oh, I would have maximized that memory. I'd have gotten more out of our meeting. If you agree with me, I want you to put yes in the comment section. If you've ever had some moments with somebody and you really didn't take advantage of it, it was no big deal to you at that time, and then one day you realize, wait a minute, I didn't use my time wisely with that person. And so right now, in this era, this history-changing era where we are, the people that are going to come out on top, the people that are going to get control of their destiny, the people that are going to maximize this place in history and be stronger and be fortified in terms of their mental resolve and in terms of their families and their skills and their ability to create incredible wealth, are people that are using their times more productively. The people who take the time to learn something new. I say, and I want to say it every day, if you're not willing to learn, nobody can help you. If you're willing to learn, no one can stop you.
Everybody can transform a kind of inconvenience in a huge advantage.
Without any question, and it takes work. Now, there's no question that there are certain situations and structures around the world that don't allow people to dream. You know, I'm doing some work in South Africa right now, Johannesburg, and my first step is to help people to learn how to dream, because they were under apartheid, a form of enslavement that did not make dreaming possible. And there are other places around the world that just like that right now. Yeah. That's destroying people's dreams. And I think that's why we see such global upheaval in terms of many dictatorships, because people are becoming more enlightened. In 2007, Time magazine recognized the computer of the person of the year. And the reason it did, because it gives everyday people access to information that they never had before. And so now people with that access of information becoming more enlightened, and it's causing a great deal of disturbance with various types of governments around the world.
It's huge. My message in France, and I would like to spread that everywhere, it's you have a dream, it's possible, so take an action now. How can I help people to believe it's possible?
It's an ongoing process. The faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. That's what my favorite book says. That you have to be an unreasonable person who's not looking at and judging the circumstances such as you see them.
Yeah.
But you're calling forth those things that be not as though they were. And if you read the book called Change or Die by David Dushman,
I will do.
He said there's a person who is an unreasonable person who brings a message that it's possible and repeat that message. And there are people who hear that message who are able to relate to it and identify with it. And then they begin to move from and develop a whole approach to life with that new level of enlightenment, that as he speaks or she speaks, it begin to give people a vision of themselves beyond their circumstances and their mental conditioning, and challenging them to begin to embrace some habits that cause them to make some new choices that will help them to carve out and become the architect of their future, as opposed to becoming volunteer victims.
Great. You do a lot of speeches all around the world, and you are not the only speaker. A lot of speakers are. So, according to you,
I'm a trainer. I'm known as a speaker, but my gifting is I started out as a trainer, teaching people how to live their dreams, teaching them how to use their voice and their story and leverage their knowledge to go from being local to being global.
Yeah,
That's what
I
my
understand.
gifting is in.
So as a trainer, why there are some speaker or trainer who give only a kind of information, at the end you say, oh, it's interesting, and other speakers like you, according to me, and you feel something and you're not thinking about, oh, it's interesting, but I can do that. I want to take an action. I want to change something in my life. I don't know if it was interesting, but I will change something in my life. What are the differences?
Well, there are many speakers
Yeah,
think that people are stuck because of lack of information. I always say, if information could change people, everybody would be skinny, rich, and happy. They don't need us to come in and speak. They can go online, they can Google the information. So information alone cannot create transformation. That in order to change human behavior, you have to create a significant emotional event. The materials that I provide, the training that I provide, is designed to impact a person's mind, their heart, and their spirit. And so the goal is to distract, dispute, and inspire, to interrupt their story. How people live their lives is a result of the story they believe about themselves. So when I'm training speakers, I teach them how to become a strategic, experiential storyteller. Be strategic on how they use their story. You never make a point without a story, and you never tell a story without a point. And experiential, because Oliver Wendell Holmes said that once a man or woman's mind has been expanded with an idea, concept, or experience, it could never be satisfied to going back to where it was. And so when you take that approach to change how they think and what they feel, then you now have positioned yourself to begin to create a thirst. There's no saying you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. You create a thirst where they want to drink, where they want to change. And now you have, because of their encounter with you, you have now allowed yourself to be an instrument, as Mother Teresa would say, in the hand of God.
Yeah.
And now that person will begin to write a new chapter with their lives. So it's about how do we change the story that people believe about themselves that's been given to them by life, given to them by their circumstances. We learn between ages 0 and 5 what's available for us and what's not available for us. And based upon those experiences and the people around us in our environment, a word formulates in our mind. It's either yes or it's no. A word formulates in our heart. It's either yes or no. It formulates in our spirit, yes or no. And there's various things that can impact the formulation of that word and the conviction behind it and how we move our lives forward. My goal, if the word is no, is to interrupt that word and to change it to a very affirmative yes.
It's great. I love that. How to have a strong will? Because a lot of speakers are speaking about you have to have will, but how?
Will is, that's why I talk about the mind, the heart, and the spirit. The reason we celebrate Nelson Mandela is that for 26 years, they tried to control his mind. They were able to control his body. But most importantly, they couldn't break his spirit. And so that deep down resolve, that dimension that's available to all of us was explained to us in the book called Man's Search for Meaning, that Viktor Frankl, that there's a part of us that's always a part of us that's in our hands, that the irreducible essence of who you are, that either you say yes or no, not based upon the circumstances, not based upon the pressure that's applied, but based upon your conviction. Are you going to give this the power to take advantage of you? Are you going to turn yourself over to this? We always have that choice. That's the greatest choice that human beings have. Am I going to give myself a pass to surrender, or am I going to stand up? I remember telling a story when I produced my first PBS special. in public television of a man who came by a house and there were people on the porch talking, and there was a dog moaning and groaning. The guy was curious, and he went back and he asked the owner, "Why is this dog moaning and groaning?" And the owner said, "Because he's lying on a nail."
Yeah.
Guy said, "Well, why won't he just get off?" He said, "Because it's not hurting bad enough for him to get off. Just hurting bad enough for him to moan and groan." And so what most people do in life, they have the power to change their circumstances. You are made in the likeness and image of God. You've been given authority and dominion over everything on the face of the earth. But most people would rather moan and groan about their situation, show up in their lives as volunteer victims, rather than become actively engaged in doing the work necessary to change their circumstances. It's been said there are two types of people, those who work and those who watch them. So you got to be willing to do your internal work so that you have the mental resiliency, and your external work finds something that you want to master that will allow you to move yourself forward.
Wow. So we have to, the first step is to find what we want to master.
Why are you here? What's your reason for being? Why do you get up in the morning? Most people don't have a clue. Pay the bills, keep a roof over your head. I think we have to reflect on, who am I? Why am I here? What drives me? If I died today, what 3 words would I want said about me if I died today? You know, what is it that defines me? You know, and how do I define myself? Most people allow their circumstances to define them, as opposed to defining themselves and how they're going to show up in life. And so my mission is to help people to connect with the power they have within, their greatness. When you're pursuing your greatness, you don't know what your limits are, so you act like you don't have any. And when you live from that place, you can now be able to make a greater contribution and make a greater impact with your life, because of the fact that you see yourself in a larger context. One of the principles, there are 9 principles that we teach of greatness.
Yeah.
The first one is each of us can achieve far beyond our horizons and in avenues of life we have never explored. But most people settle in and accept things in life as it has been given to them, as opposed to rising above that, working to create something that they can feel good about.
It's the first principle.
Yes.
What are the next?
The next one is we must take responsibility for our actions and our reactions.
Yeah.
When you look at your circumstances, you know, George Bernard Shaw said, the people look for the things that they want in life, and if they can't find them, they create them. And so when we look at ourselves, it's about doing that. It's about taking ownership for your stuff, for your life. And one of the things I emphasize, that changing is not easy. That changing your life, changing habits, reinventing yourself, picking yourself up after life has knocked you flat on your back. I've got to say, when life knocked you down, try and land on your back, because if you could look up, you could get up. Well, that sounds cute, but that's not easy. When I was diagnosed with prostate cancer 17 years ago, that first time that happened, I said, hey, I can handle this. Then when it came back a year later, last year, 17 years later, and this time, it metastasized to 7 areas of my body and ate 40% of my T1 vertebrae. Now the stakes are higher. It's this life saying, okay, Mr. Motivator, you beat cancer the first time. What you gonna do now? You know, I started laughing. When the doctor told me, he said, why are you laughing? Are you in denial? I said, no. I said, I feel like Mother Teresa. He said, what do you mean? She said, Lord, I know you know how much I can bear. I just wish you to have so much confidence in me. I said, the stakes are higher. So I've got to dig in and got to fight more, because at the end of the day, life is a fight for territory. And once you stop fighting for what you want, what you don't want will automatically take over. And so it's a fight, it's a challenge in life every day. And what we have to do is embrace it. What we have to do is see it as a project to be worked on. I read something once that I live by. It said, in life, you will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges. And so I see even cancer as a gift, as a God-ordained opportunity.
It is a kind of test for you to improve
It's a
yourself.
test, right? No test, no testimony. Yes.
Wow.
And so you have to be willing to step up and handle it. Anybody can have faith, David. If the bills are paid, if they have their health, the marriage is working out fine, the children acting like they have good sense, they have a lot of money in the bank, a lot
Everything
of
is perfect.
investment. Anybody can have faith under those circumstances. The true challenge of faith is when life knocks on the door. The true challenge when you lose your health, or something happens to someone you care about, or you lose your wealth, or some tragedy happens to you. All of us over the next year will experience at least 3 tragedies. We will experience it personally or someone we care about. Charles Udall said in life, he said, things may happen around you and things may happen to you, but the only things that really count are the things that happen in you. And that's where,
Wow,
that's
that.
our domain. That's where we have the control.
Yeah, we choose the answer.
Yes, we did too, and we choose how we're going to respond to this. Will I allow this to get the best of me? Will I allow this to stop me? Am I going to surrender to this? Will I give myself a pass? Will I wimp out on myself? That's always a choice.
I love that. In the speech just before you said a sentence that I love, can you repeat it about the fact that when it's hard?
If you do what is easy,
Yeah, I love that.
giving yourself a pass, giving yourself permission to stop. If you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. I didn't do what I'm doing now for 14 years because it was hard to make the radical change in my approach, my dress, my learning the language of corporate America, gaining access, developing myself an intellectual resource where corporations would reach over people with years of experience, PhDs and MBAs, and I have no experience and no credentials, and be able to compete with them. It was hard, but we can do hard. All of us have moments in our lives when things have been thrust upon us and we had to do hard. So if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what is hard, your life will be easy. And so don't give yourself a pass. Don't run away from hard because you can do hard. And through that, you discover a part of yourself that you would not know otherwise.
Yeah, you are building your power when you have challenges and when it's hard.
Yes, those things only happen through growth experiences, through challenges. If you go to the gym to work out and you don't feel any discomfort the next day, here's what we know. You haven't done anything. And so you got to challenge yourself.
Yeah.
And you're going to get hurt. You know, Viktor Frankl calls it unavoidable suffering. Life is full of pain and disappointment. It's a part of the process.
And we are proud of ourselves when we overcome something.
When we overcome things, we discover things about ourselves. No tests, no testimony. No guts, no glory.
Yeah.
And I was doing a broadcast once, and a guy was coming up and he had crutches. He was coming up to be interviewed by me, and he missed a step and he fell. It was a very embarrassing moment. And I went down to help him get up, and he said, "Don't feel sorry for me or be embarrassed." He said, "It goes with being a paraplegic. I fall all the time." And so we fall all the time in life. We make mistakes all the time in life.
Yeah.
You know, there's no life without mistakes. Anything that's worth doing is worth doing badly. It's worth doing right if you know how to do it. But if you don't know how to do it, it's worth doing badly until you get it right. All of us are going to fall on some tough times. 8 out of 10 millionaires have had to file bankruptcy. It's a part of the process. You go up, you go down. And we learn things during the tough times. That's where we really learn things. That's where we begin to discover things about ourselves. Adversity introduces you to yourself, that are part of yourself that you would never know otherwise when things are going real good for you. And so what we have to help people to understand is to maintain a spirit of optimism in spite of their circumstances, to give them hope. Why? Because when there's hope in the future, that gives you power in the present. So my goal is training 100,000 voices of hope who will do 3 things. Help give people hope. That's number 1. Number 2, Teach them methods that will help them to develop the desire to reinvent themselves so that they are not replaced by an app or outsourcing, because this is a time where you have to continuously reinvent yourself to stay ahead of technology and cheap labor around the world. That's number two. Continuing to work on yourself and growing and developing. And the third thing is to build communities, collaborative, achievement-driven cultures, supportive cultures that'll help you to get to the next level. Have a group we call ourselves Cancer Conquerors. And so one goose can fly 75% further in formation with other geese than it could ever fly by itself. So if you got 100,000 voices giving people hope, that's number one. Number two, encouraging them to develop their capacity, their skill set. There's no shortage of opportunity. There's a shortage of capacity to take advantage of the opportunities that are available in the global economy.
Yeah.
And encouraging people to create communities of collaborative, achievement-driven, supportive relationships. We can accomplish anything.
And how can the people and me can contribute to these dreams?
They can email me at yes@lesbrown.com. yes@lesbrown.com, and we'll be set up within a few weeks and send them out some information. But also in the meantime, what we will do is send them a video that as they watch this, they'll see the message that I'm bringing and a format. We're going to be teaching them the 7 principles of storytelling so that they can learn how to influence and impact and change lives, one-on-one, small groups, or in large groups.
Yeah. So with 100,000 voices, you can make a big difference in this world.
Absolutely, yes. That's the goal, and we want 100,000 voices outside of politics and outside of religion, both of which polarize and divide people. Just everyday people. I'm not an educated guy. If both my parents came in here right now, I would not know either one of them. I'm adopted. I don't have any credentials. I'm just an average person, and who I have a desire to make a difference with my life, to live a life of significance, and to live a meaningful life, and to help others who have a desire to do the same thing.
Yeah.
As you look at yourself, look at your goals, here's something that I do now. If you had 6 months to live, 6 months, you knew that, what would you do? How would you spend your time? Who would you spend time with? Would you still be doing the same thing that you're doing now? That's how I resigned from the Ohio legislature. I wrote down, if I had 6 months to live. And this guy, I was reading this book, How to Get Control of Your Time and Your Life. And my sister called me and said, Mama had breast cancer. And what I wrote down, I would resign from the Ohio legislature and go back to Miami and fulfill my promise and commitment to take care of my mama. And then I turned the page, says, as far as you know, this could be your last day. I remember being in Las Vegas at a table with Frank Sinatra. At that time, my wife was Gladys Knight, and I overheard him say to someone, live each day as if it were your last, because one day it will be. So if you had 6 months to live, how would you spend your time? What are the things that you would do? What are the grudges or the hard feelings or the anger that you have against some loved one that you'll let go? How would you spend that time? That's something to think about. And when you get home tonight, think about that, give it some thought, and live as much of it as you can, because we don't know. We all have an expiration date. We don't know the time of the day or the hour when our number's going to be up. Let us say together, I deserve the best that life has to offer. I'm willing to work on myself. I'm willing to upgrade my relationships. I'm willing to answer the call on my life. I'm willing to go through some stuff to get to my stuff. It's worth it to me. It gives my life meaning. and significance. I'm here for a reason. I'm ready to live life on my terms. Let us say together, you gotta be hungry. I never forget Mr. Washington said, Mr. Brown, what do you want to do with your life, young man? I said, sir, I want to take care of my mother. He said, how do you plan to do that? I said, I'd like to become a disc jockey. He said, you got to be hungry. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, people that are hungry are willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. He said, people that are hungry are relentless and unstoppable. No excuse is acceptable. People that are hungry work on themselves. How do you plan to do that? How do you plan to get the money to take care of your mother? What do you bring to the table of life, Mr. Brown? Sir, I want to be a disc jockey. That's what I want to do. I want to be on radio. Good. Here are my car keys. What do I need this for? Well, there's a guy named Paul Harvey. He does a program called The Rest of the Story. He's the best storyteller on radio. Listen to him. You want to be successful? He said, watch and study people that are doing what it is you want to do, those who master it, and you want to study them. Success leaves clues. I said, yes, sir, I will. And I listened to this guy, Paul Harvey, every day. And finally, I said, Mr. Washington, I've done what you told me to do. I listened to him, and I've created my own program. You told me it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. Yes, I did, Mr. Brown. I said, well, I've done that, sir. I have my own concept, my own show. I've been practicing. I've visualized myself being on the air like you told me. Good. Let us say together, relationship capital. You want to create relationship capital. You can't do it by yourself. You can't do it by yourself. Relationship capital. Al brings a set of skills and values and imagination and energy and creativeness and unstoppable spirit that helps me go to that next level. The things I'm going to be able to do with him that I could never do by myself, in spite of the fact that I've been doing this before he was born. I believe you're never too old to learn, and you're never too young to teach. And so that's relationship capital. It's paying off for me and my children in a variety of ways. And so he said, here's my card. Go to WMBM radio station. Tell them I told you to go there. Milton Butterball Smith is a program director. I went to the radio station, and I'll never forget, as I was leaving his room, he said, you gotta be hungry. I said, yes, sir. I'm hungry, sir, to take care of my mother. I'm hungry to set her down. I'm hungry to pay all the bills and provide for her. Good. Hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you, sir? My name is Les Brown, sir. I'd like to be a disc jockey. Young man, do you have any journalism in your background? No, sir, I don't. Have any experience in broadcasting at all? No, sir, I don't. He said, I'm sorry. We don't have any job for you. How many have ever been rejected? Raise your hands, please. I was devastated with rejection. I went back and I said, Mr. Washington. They said no. He said, don't take it personally. Most people are so negative, they have to say no 7 times before they say yes. He said, you got to be hungry. Go back again. I went back again. Hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you, sir? My name is Les Brown, sir. I'd like to be a disc jockey. I know what your name is. Weren't you here yesterday? Yes, sir. Didn't I tell you no yesterday? Yes, sir, you did. Then why are you back today? Well, sir, I didn't know whether or not somebody was laid off or somebody was fired, sir. No one was laid off or fired. Now, get on out of here. I came back the next day, talking loud, looking happy, like I was seeing you for the first time. Hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you, sir? My name is Les Brown, sir. I'd like to be a disc jockey. I know what your name is. Weren't you here the last 2 days? Yes, sir. Didn't I tell you no the last 2 days? Yes, sir. Then why are you back today? Sir, I didn't know whether or not someone got sick or someone died, sir. No one got sick or died. No one was laid off or fired. Now, don't you come back here again. I came back the next day, talking loud, looking happy, like I was seeing you for the first time. Hello, Mr. Butterball. How are you? He looked at me betrayed. He says, go get me some coffee. I said, yes, sir. The book of life says, the greatest among you will be your servant. How many of you are serious about your goals and dreams? Raise your hands, please. This is one. Repeat after me, please. Provide more service than you get paid for. Yeah, see, most people work just hard enough to keep from being fired. No, no, no. You want to provide more service than you get paid for. Why? People form habits, and habits create futures. And so I became the errand boy for the disc jockeys. I'd go get their lunch and their dinner, and I'd stand in the control room watching them work their hands on the control board, knowing my time will come. I want you to think about your golden dream right now. Let us say together, I expect to win. I see it. I feel it. It's my time. And so the disc jockeys were impressed with me serving them and being a resource, the go-to person. And when they would come out on the weekend and look at their cars to be waxed and cleaned inside out, and they said, hey, who did this? I did, sir. How much you charge, young boy? Oh, nothing, sir. I just wanted to help out. He looked at me differently. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. He said, listen, Donna Ross and Supremes are coming to town. The Four Tops and the Temptations. I want you to pick them up and drive them to the Fontainebleau Hotel on Miami Beach. Be my pleasure, sir. I would drive these entertainers all over Miami Beach in disc jockeys, big long Cadillacs. I didn't have any driver's license, but I was driving like I had something. Then one day, is a Saturday afternoon, a disc jockey by the name of Rockin' Roger was drinking while he was on the air. Rockin' Roger began to slur his words. It's a Saturday afternoon, and I was the only one there, looking at him through the control room window, walking back and forth, young, ready, and hungry. I was saying, drink, rock, drink. Drink, rock, I'd have gone and get him some more if he'd asked me to. Then pretty soon the phone rang. It was the general manager, and I answered the phone. I said, hello? He said, young boy, this is Mr. Klein. I said, I know. He said, Rock can't finish the program. I said, I know. He said, would you call one of the other DJs in? I said, yes, sir. I hung the phone up. I said, now he must think I'm crazy. I called my mom and my girlfriend, Cassandra. I said, y'all come out on the front porch and turn on the radio. I'm about to come on the air. I waited for about 20 minutes, and I called him back and said, Mr. Klein, I can't find nobody. He said, young boy, you know how to work the controls? I said, yes, sir. He said, go in there and segue the records, but don't you say nothing here. I said, yes, sir. I couldn't wait to get old Rock out of the way. I put on a fast record by Stevie Wonder called Fingertips. I said, look out, this is me, LB, Triple P, Les Brown, your platter playing Papa. There were none before me, and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single and love to mingle, certified, bona fide, dutifully qualified to bring you satisfaction and a whole lot of action. Look out, baby, I'm your love man. I was hungry. I was hungry. Shake someone's hand on your right and left and say, you gotta be hungry. Do that right now. Shake someone's hand on your right and left and say, you gotta be hungry. In front of you and behind you. People that are hungry, believe, always strive to get on top in life because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. People that are hungry, believe, do what you know, not what you feel. People that are hungry believe, as Henry David Thoreau, who said, do not go where the path may lead, go where there's no path and leave a trail. People that are hungry believe in building a legacy, living a life of significance, making an impact, live from their faith and not from their fears. People that are hungry are people like you. I'm looking at greatness in this room. There's a calling on your life. I don't know you. Here's what I know. Listen to that still small voice within. I didn't listen for years because for a long period of my life, I was temporarily insane. How many of y'all could identify with me? Come on, huh? I said, it can't be me. Come on, Lord. You know, I got 10 children, 5 girls and 5 boys. I'm a baby Christian. Lord said, be fruitful and multiply. I took him seriously. But I'm like the lady who said, Lord, I ain't what I ought to be, ain't what I'm going to be. And thank God I sure ain't what I was. But I pray now, I get down on my knees. I know God is just cracking up. Say, I can't believe you. There you are now. Yeah, you got cancer now, you're down on your knees. Yeah, I see you. Yeah, this thing called life.